All right, back here with Locked On Heat. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. We got a little bit of a bonus episode for you today, talking about whether or not the Heat can take advantage of a Fred VanVleet injury to the Houston Rockets in a way to unload Terry Rozier. David, we just got done recording our big blueprint for the new offensive overhaul that we think the Heat should make. If you guys missed that, go ahead and check that out up on your podcast feed, your YouTube feed. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. But we ran out of time because we gotten so in the weeds with the offensive stuff. We ran out of time for this mailbag question. So news right before we started recording here that Fred VanVleet is going to miss the season for the Rockets after tearing his ACL. It's devastating news for Houston. When I retweeted it, I got multiple people asking, though, if this could be an opportunity for the Heat to offload Terry Rozier. I would encourage people, if you're really serious about this, go check out the latest episode of Locked On Rockets, because I'm sure they're going to be talking about some of these options here. I do not think Terry Rozier is an option, but I'll get to the mailbag question here. This one comes from Alberto. Again, multiple people asked us about this, but this is from Alberto. May we interest you in a gently used Terry Rozier, Houston? He's willing to bet on himself and play out the final year of his contract, so no worries about needing to extend him right away. I don't think I caught the bet on himself pun the first time I read this, but there it is.
Ooh. Unintentional? You think it was intentional or unintentional?
I'm going to give Alberto the benefit of the doubt here and think that that was a very clever little something that he added in there. But what do you think?
It's hard to see the path for Houston to finalize a deal there, but I will say that there's height pressure there. They acquired Kevin Durant because they see that roster being as good as they were last season, and they want to add a superstar player into Ime Udoka's team specifically for the purpose of being viewed as a top contender. They view their team as a legitimate challenger to the Oklahoma City Thunder dynasty that might be waiting in the wings. And so when you acquire this, you know that Oklahoma City might have a stranglehold on this team, given their treasure trove of draft picks and the bright future and the young core that they've already got developing there. They might be the most dominant team in the West for years to come. I know it may eventually have salary situations that force a breakup, but whatever. At least from Houston's perspective, they have a limited window, at least potentially. And one way of capitalizing on that is getting said superstar Durant as an older player and making sure that increases your window by a season or two, opens it up now, and maybe you can challenge Oklahoma City Thunder, on a season where they'll be coming off of a championship, and maybe they might be just a little bit vulnerable. Maybe take their foot off their gas, something I've talked about before on Locked On NBA. So that being the case, they can't afford to just have a gap at the point guard position. They need somebody to be able to provide something, but that's not what VanVleet does either. Like, VanVleet is not Terry Rozier. It's very different players. And so it's tough to kind of talk myself, as much as we might say that Houston definitely needs something at the point guard position. I don't know that Rozier is the right option for that roster to provide what it is that, or to duplicate what it is that VanVleet was expected to do this season.
So in case people don't know, you co-host your night of Locked On NBA Game Night with Jackson Gatlin, who hosts Locked On Rockets. So I'm sure you are very familiar with the Rockets, and I'm sure he loves talking about the Rockets, and I'm sure he talks your ear off about the Rockets. With VanVleet gone, Houston makes no changes to the roster. What happens? Because he was obviously the starting point guard. He was hugely important, not just from a table setting standpoint, which it was probably his biggest role, but from a floor spacing standpoint, right? Like we talked about, Houston three-point shooting was a big problem for them last year. They go and add Kevin Durant. That's a big add in that department, but then you lose VanVleet, who was kind of their only material floor spacer last year in a lot of ways. So you lose him. And now we already knew that they were going to start to shift the offense a little bit more towards Amen Thompson, especially with Jalen Green traded to Phoenix. Is Amen Thompson ready to be the full-time point guard? Maybe on a team like the Wizards, but for a team, to your point, David, like Houston, that thinks that they're going to compete with Oklahoma City, that seems like a lot to put on that guy's plate right now. They have Reed Shepherd there, who they just drafted, but he barely played as a rookie. I don't know that you want to put it on his plate. They re-signed Justin Holiday. Do they look at him as a starter potentially? I don't really know what Houston does, but so that's why I think people are saying like they kind of need to add somebody, but it's really hard for them to add some. Bobby Marks tweeted that they've got like $1.5 million of space below the apron, so it's hard for them to even sign somebody at this point.
Yeah, no, I think the hope has to come from Shepherd specifically. I think he's the most likely option. I mean, it's just he was disappointing as a rookie, as you mentioned. Barely got playing time there. He didn't show much in summer league either for a second-year player that is experienced at the NBA level. The hope was that he would turn Vegas
I thought he
into
was
a showcase.
disappointed this last Vegas. I thought he was disappointing.
Yeah, he was. He absolutely was. And so just hasn't been able to take the leap. So maybe a bit of a bust. At least that's the thought. But, there's the potential there eventually. But right now he's kind of forced into it. And so I don't know, to your point, if Houston can make a deal. There just doesn't seem like a legitimate option on this roster. And part of their strength is their kind of depth and all the young players that they have. They've already traded away some pieces in order to acquire Kevin Durant in the first place. So, and KD, not to say he's injury prone, but there is the threat and potential of injury as a player at his age and somebody who's dealt with injury before. So now you're already one player down in VanVleet. Right. You just need somebody else to step up. So I don't see the path towards them looking at Rozier as that stopgap measure. I just don't think he's not really a point guard. He's just more of an offense. He's a shooting guard in a point guard's body. And I don't know that he's going to boost the offense necessarily to the point.
He is a guy who can bring the ball up. He's got a really good handle, other than last year when he was giving the ball away. If I were going to try to talk Houston into it, if I'm Miami's front office, I'd be like, look, this is why you want him. I would say this is a guy who has a lot of experience bringing the ball up and getting offenses into actions. And frankly, you don't have anybody on your roster who checks those very low bar boxes. Now, that's about as much of an argument as I can make. I don't think that a team that takes itself seriously right now would be trading for Terry Rozier. But then you look at the rest of the market and you say, like, who's the point guard that is available that makes any kind of sense? Like, what point guards are available right now? Like, even if you wanted Rockets, they should bring back Russell Westbrook. They don't have the cap space. That's not an option for them unless they create cap space by dumping a salary somewhere. But, like, could they trade for Gabe Vincent from the Lakers?
He's available. We always know that.
Is he playing over Justin Holiday? Is he playing over Reed Shepherd? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. The Nets drafted what, 1 billion point guards this past season,
and they love all of them. Why would they trade any of them?
I don't know.
They love them enough to take all of them. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know who's available. That said, to answer the question, they're not going to trade for Terry Rozier. They don't have anything to trade. The Rockets, like, just from a salary matching standpoint, doesn't make sense. They would either have to trade Fred VanVleet straight up, which they're not going to do,
right?
Or it would have to be some sort of combination like Steven Adams and Dorian Finney-Smith, which they could not even execute, I don't believe, until later in the year.
Yeah.
And even then, why on earth would they do that? Those guys play, like, DFS is probably going to start for them. Yeah. Steven Adams is going to play a ton of minutes for them. He's hugely important to what they do. They're not going to do that, even if they could. So even from a salary matching perspective, there's nothing that really gets the job done. So for Heat fans that are dreaming of, and by the way, I recognize that most of this was a joke, right? Even this mailbag question from Alberto was a joke, but we thought it would be, we got enough of these questions that we thought it was worth addressing. But the answer is, yeah, no, Terry Rozier will not be playing for the Houston Rockets. Even if the Heat buy him out, it would be an issue for Houston because of where they are below the apron. So that's where we're at. Anything else?
On VanVleet and the injury or acquiring Terry, again, that's we even it's yesterday, I think, or maybe even earlier today before recording this. Like, I saw some comment about how people kind of view the Rozier situation, and it's so tough for the Heat right now. Like, they've got his salary on the books, and a lot of people have discussed the possibility of waiving him, and it just doesn't seem like. I don't know if people don't understand, like, the $1.5 million savings they'd get from waiving him isn't significant enough for Miami to have this to make this kind of move. They're not going to be able to upgrade the roster significantly by waiving him. Like, is it a possibility? Maybe if they were willing to get, if there was a perfect player that they would add to the roster and that was the necessary move, absolutely they would do it. But what perfect player is going to be available for $1.5 million? Like, that's the whole thing. They're just not going to get any kind of significant cap space or anything like that to make an additional move.
Yeah, they
that's gonna
could
benefit this
technically it would create enough space to go out and sign somebody like Precious Achiuwa, so you would have a backup big. But to your point, this
hardly the perfect player.
hardly the perfect player. You don't know if he's even going to play for you. And granted, you don't like Terry Rozier is not going to play for you, so maybe that's the counter argument to that.
We
Is
don't know that. We don't know that. I
well
think
now
there's
with the
still a
Tyler Hero
factor.
injury, it's a good point. But in a perfect world, he wouldn't be playing for you. But then again, like we've discussed this before, that he can also just wait until middle of December and then sign somebody like Precious Achiuwa to a prorated minimum contract, and then still have that Rozier. So if they could just hold serve without a backup big and without Tyler Hero until the middle of December, then maybe they can make it. But yeah, Terry Rozier to Houston. Sorry to dash your dreams, folks, but likely not happening. Let us know what you think in the YouTube comment. Make sure that you go back and find the episode if you missed it, where we build the blueprint to Miami having a good offense. You're not going to want to miss that episode. A lot of good information in that one. But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day.